ITV, certainly the best.
This is ITV.
Certainly the best.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us in the program Woman to Woman. I'm Adisu Welsawagie, and so we're doing part 2 of what we started last week, paternity fraud. We heard last week why, when, how, and all of those excuses. And we thought that 1 or 2 people will call in. So today we're having part 2 of that topic. And today's topic is legal and psychological implications of paternity fraud. We're going to look at the legal angle and, of course, the psychological angle. I have in the studio with me Dr. Igedosa Oseme Bartholomew. Is a consultant psychiatrist, Department of Mental Health, University of Benin Teaching Hospital. A pleasure to have you join us today, Doctor.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure. All right. And then joining us via Zoom is Tega Iswakbo, Esquire. She's a principal partner, Justice Shields Consults. Hello, Tega. We meet again. Thank you for having time to join us on the program. Okay, let me come to my doctor in the house. So, Doctor, hope you don't mind me using your first name.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Okay, Doc. Let's look at because we started this topic last week, so I don't want to ask you what is paternity fraud, but as a doctor, a specialist in this field, what's the emotional impact of paternity fraud on the man?
Well, there is a lot of emotional stress, psychological stress that a man experiences in the circumstances of paternity fraud. You can, a very good way to imagine it is to say that somebody is bereaved, like the person has lost a dear one. Or imagine when somebody loses his father or mother or child, close relatives and so on. It can be the emotional turmoil can be as bad as that. Because in paternity fraud, you are made to realize, I mean, haven't been unraveled, you are made to realize that the person you have always thought you are the biological father of is no longer your son or is no longer your daughter. And the psychological impact of such awareness, like I said, is as severe as somebody who is bereaved. And the person goes through similar stages of bereavement, according to some psychologists. Like the popular stage by Kubler-Ross, when they talk about denial, anger, bargaining, depression, then finally acceptance. So it's a whole lot, and it can lead to a lot of psychological distress, and in fact it can lead to a mental disorder if not well addressed.
Okay, when when such a thing happens, like you said, denial will always come. Is it really true? Is it not true? And all of that. There's usually this conflict within the man. Now, how can a man cope with all of this? How can a man cope with it?
Well, it is important to first of all admit that it's a difficult thing to cope with. That's very important. Why this is important is because if we must address the concerns of such people, one of the best things we can do to address their concern is to show them empathy. And empathy implies that you must be able to imagine yourself in that kind of situation.
It's a difficult thing to do, you know?
Yeah, so it is important to realize this, to be able to help such a person and to understand how they cope. And so, because if you do, you understand why they can be angry, you understand why they can be sad, you understand why they can lose the ability to concentrate, you understand why they feel restless, you understand why they are not able to sleep at night. So it is really a lot for them, and one of the things they can do is to accept the reality. And the unfortunate reality here is that that person you used to believe that you are the biological father of the son, the daughter, you are no longer the biological father, and that has been made known to you. So certainly there will be outrage, there will be anger, yes, and those are acceptable, and that is the truth. But all those things must be controlled. Otherwise, that raw emotion can lead to something more dangerous. Is
that being able to control all of that we want to talk about now, Doctor? How can we help? Because the last place such a person will want to go to is to seek help in a hospital, because the person will tell you that I don't have problems with my head, I can reason well and all of that. The last person that a victim, let's put it that way, we want to see is a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So how do we help these people, those of us who are maybe friends or relative of those victims, so to speak, victim of paternity fraud? How do we stand in for that person to make sure that there is no breakdown in that person's mental health, no depression, no violence whatsoever?
Yeah, one of the things the place to start from is, like I said, one needs to understand that whatever it is, what the person is going through, the paternity fraud realization, is a difficult thing to cope with by anybody and by whatever standard. Then the next step is to, as much as possible, support the person. And how can you support the person? Let the person realize that the entirety of his life is not about being a father to a particular person. Okay. There is still much more to the individual's life than being a father. Because why this is important is because if an individual do not realize that his self-concept as an individual is not entirely about I am the father of A, I am the father of B. The immediate thing the person will do when he realizes that he is no longer the father of certain person is to go and child. Start thinking of committing suicide. And sometimes children, not just one or two, maybe 4 or 5 children, after he has invested so much. That is crazy. Yeah, certainly. Okay, let me ask you this one before I go to Tega, who's already waiting for me online. What is the psychological, or let me put it this way, does the woman or the child or children share in this emotional trauma? Yes, certainly. And if yes, how? Yes, they share in it. In fact, it is known that there are different levels of victims in case of paternity fraud. But the primary victims are referred to as the misattributed father, or the non-biological father, who is the first or the primary victim. The second primary victim is the child. So to answer your question, the child or the children involved also share in this psychological distress. And to some extent, even the wife or the mother of the child. So for the child, it is also a loss of identity, because the child just doesn't realize that the person he or she used to look father up to as the father is no longer the father. Is enough to put so much pressure and stress on the person's brain, enough for the person to start having inability to sleep, enough for the person to now having inability to concentrate. And so when the child goes to school, you say everything you want to say, the child cannot pick out one because the child is distressed in his or her brain. Okay. That is if the child goes to school at all. Then in the night, the child cannot sleep. The reason is not far-fetched. The reason is because what the child considers fundamental to him, or what the child considers fundamental to her, is his or her identity. And that identity is attached to, in quotes, his father. And immediately the child realizes that this person, I've been lied to all these years. This person is not actually my father. The whole chemistry of the child's brain is distorted, and there cannot be a better description of what psychological turmoil can be. That's quite sad. To that situation. That's quite sad. When we come back, we'll come and ask you more questions. All right, let me go to my friend Tega, who's already waiting on the other side. Tega, how do you do? Let me hope and pray that we're able to hear each other. Now, Tega, what does Nigerian law hold for a victim of paternity fraud, and what are the penalties?
Are there explicit laws?
So unlike other jurisdictions like UK and US that have separate jurisdiction for paternity fraud, we do not have what we know as paternity fraud as a crime in this jurisdiction. I mean, in Nigeria. Do you understand? So if Mr. A discovers that the children or the child that he has been claiming to be his is no longer his, he cannot, enforce it in the court of law to say, okay, I'm going to enforce my right that paternity fraud, my paternity has been breached. So we do not have that kind of law in Nigeria. But we have other means of going about seeking for compensation or for damages under our law, which can be under torts, talking about the tort of deceit, for example. I don't know if you can hear me.
Please go ahead.
Can you hear me, please?
I can hear you.
Yes, talking about the tort of deceit. Now, this is based on what a Latin maxim we know as ubi jus, ubi remedium. That is, where there is a wrong, there is a remedy. So under the tort of deceit, for example, the man can sue for damages. The man can sue for compensation for the money he has spent, bringing up this child over the years, for psychological trauma, for emotional trauma. That's one of the ways the man can seek redress in court. Another way the man can seek redress in court is by dissolution of the marriage, of course, on the basis of adultery. The evidence of the child stares the court in the face when we talk about adultery. So you need no further evidence, especially when a court-supervised DNA has been conducted and it shows that the man is not the father of the child or the children. So that is a very good way to prove adultery in seeking for dissolution of the marriage. Of course, the man can also seek for to disclaim responsibility of the children of the child in question, because the child would have been bearing his name, in his birth certificate, travel documents, and all that. So the man can approach a court first to seek for a court-supervised DNA, and where it proves that he's not the father of the child, the man can go ahead and now seize responsibility, fatherly responsibility to these children.
Is it possible for the man, assuming something like that happens somewhere, and then the man says, okay, fine, you have done this to me, no problem, but I want these children, but I don't want you as the woman. Is it possible for him to say, okay, I don't want the woman anymore, I don't want the marriage anymore, but because those children were born in my house under my name, I can claim those children? Is it possible for the man to so do? Because he has invested so much.
Well. You know what? Yes. You know what the court looks at in cases like this is the best interest of the child. A child has grown up to know a man as his or her father. And then you want to just take the child away from the man and say, Mr. B is now your father. The court must look at the best interest of the child. Now, there is a law under our Evidence Act, Section 165, that states that the children of a marriage, the children born during a valid marriage, is presumed to be the children of that man. And until it is rebutted, the father will continue to be the father of that child or those children. So yes, he can decide to say, I want to have the children.
So he can still claim the children as his.
Yes, they can still claim the children as his. As a matter of fact, there is a Supreme Court decision on this, that as long as the children are born during the pendency of a valid marriage, the children can still be claimed to be the children of the man.
I'm going to take a very short break now. When we come back, I'll come back to you. And of course, Dr. Oseme in the studio will come back to you in a moment. Let's take a very short break and we'll be right back. It's paternity fraud we're talking about. Thank you so much for joining us again on the program, Woman to Woman. Don't be surprised you're seeing a man on show. Yeah, he's a professional and he's talking to us about the kind of problem the man can suffer when this happens. So, doctor, a man has said that he's not the biological father of a child he has invested in so much, that he has loved. Sometimes it could be 5 children, it could be 10 children, and that man may be so old he will not be able to have children again, or may not be interested in having children again. Now, the mental state of the man, the mental state of the child or children, I don't want to talk about the mental state of the woman, because I think, I shouldn't have an opinion, but a woman who can be betting for another man right in her husband's house needs to be checked. I mean, that's not a normal, it's not a normal behavior. Though it is eating so deep into the fabrics of society, where a lot of women are doing all of this. Is this a new fashion trend now, to marry one man, stay in his house, and be betting another man's baby under the name of the man you are living with? So, doctor, the question is, this man who, some men may not present, they may not do anything, they may not see anything, they may just be laughing and smiling, but I know deep down they are hurting. So such a man, how can we help him to avoid violence, to avoid depression, to avoid committing suicide, or to avoid doing something terrible on him, because society will judge him? The culture, everything will laugh at the man. The man who is supposed to be a victim will then be victimized. And then the child too. How do we help that child to cope? Because the child may suffer a lot of damages in future.
Yes, certainly the man and the child, they would need a lot of psychological support for obvious reasons, as said earlier. Do
they need to go to hospital to find a psychiatrist or psychologist?
Yes, that would be very important.
They have to.
Yes, very, very important. But most importantly, it's also good for the general public or relatives of such people. So, because oftentimes you would hardly find such person on their own going to say, I want to seek a professional help.
Yes, even so, somebody who is all right, find it difficult to go to the hospital.
So oftentimes it is important to educate the people, the masses, and especially the people around such persons, that they shouldn't be judgmental towards people like that. They should understand that the person is going through a lot of stress. Some of them that refer to as psychological conflict, or some that were refer to as attachment dissonance, for example. Imagine having realized and you are not taking care of somebody you now know is not your child, or having realized the person is not your child, and you are imagining all the investment, all the emotion, all the effort that you have put into bringing up such a person, and the fact that this person is not dead. I mean, the child is still alive under your nose. Everything has just changed totally about who you are, who that child is and what the relationship between the both of you are. So it's a lot of dissonance that is capable of actually breaking down any human being. So what is expected of, I would rather want to talk more about what is expected of the individual is to ensure that he or she he realizes the circumstances, agree that it has happened, and figure out the way forward as much as possible. So while that is important, even the relatives, this is a time not to be judgmental towards this person. This is a time to give support to such individual. I'm emphasizing this because, like I said earlier, most of the time they are not the people who choose by themselves that they want to go and seek help. It is the people around them who identifies this psychological state that this person has found himself, and talk to him as a relative and say, brother, I think you may need to seek help. But we also need to encourage people like that to speak up. And unfortunately, in our environment, one of the ways we assume somebody is a strong man is for the person not to cry when ordinarily the situation demands that he should cry.
Men don't cry.
They say men don't cry.
They don't cry.
But when you are in such a state, one of the ways of healing yourself is actually to cry. Because crying itself is therapeutic.
It doesn't make the man a weakling. It doesn't make him to appear weak.
Exactly. But unfortunately, that is not what we were taught. From childhood, even up to now. Everybody says a man should not cry. So when the man is psychologically distressed, he should still not cry. Therefore, bottling up the pressure, the psychological pressure, and further damaging himself.
Okay. Tega, you with me? Is Barrister Tega with me?
Yes,
All right,
I am.
Tega, let me ask you this question now. It seems that a woman who has committed paternity fraud usually walks free, even if the man stop paying, stop taking care of the children, divorce her, and all of that, send her away from his life, and I still feel that the woman walk free. Isn't there something the woman can go in for, either jail term or, you name it, a fine or something that will serve as deterrent to that woman?
Yes, definitely, definitely. Under the penal code, which applies to some of the northern states in Nigeria, the woman can go to jail for a term of 2 years or more, because under the penal code, adultery is a crime. So if the man sues the woman for adultery, she can go to jail for 2 years or more. And apart from that, the woman can also be made to pay for psychological damage, emotional damage, and what have you. So it's not as if she's going to walk free. Well, I think it's because
Woman pay for all of that. This is our agenda. How much can we pay?
it's because they'll be able to evaluate all that, depending on the evidence that is put forward before the court. And of course, also depending on the age of the child. You know, a child that's finished nursery, primary, university, you know, of course, the woman will be made to pay for all that years of spending money unwarranted.
Okay, so briefly, Tega, how can the man seek redress now? How can the man seek redress?
Yes.
I would like to know.
Yes.
So just do that briefly in 30 seconds if you can.
Yes, like I said before, where there is a wrong, there is a remedy.
Yeah.
Ubi jus, ibidium, ubi remedium. Now, the man can seek redress by filing a civil suit.
Okay.
Civil suit in terms of maybe dissolution of the marriage, and the evidence would be adultery, psychological trauma, emotional trauma, and all of that. The man can also come under criminal law, under the sort of deceit, you know, to claim damages and all that. So yes, that's one of the ways the man can seek redress in court. Of course, the man can also ask the court for a court-supervised DNA test, you know, and
all right, thank you.
Done,
thank you so much, Tega. Doctor, please, maybe in 30 seconds, what's your parting word for that man who may suffer paternity fraud, who is suffering paternity fraud, and then the children too? What's your parting word before we leave? Your parting statement, rather.
For the man, I just want to say that the end of silence is the beginning of healing.
Okay.
So the man needs to realize that silence over psychological stress and bottling them up is not a solution to handling such stress.
Okay.
So speaking up and seeking help is very important for the individual to get himself back on track. And for the child,
yes,
it is also important that the child should be helped by everyone around and ensure that the child seek help. It is very, very important.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you so much, Doctor. You may want to know that paternity fraud has gone so deep. It is tearing the society apart. It has torn marriages apart. And unfortunately, it is only when, or sometimes the man may just know, somebody may just be a whistleblower, or when they want to travel and they need to do DNA tests. Now, so once you want to travel and your wife is refusing DNA tests, okay, go and order for a DNA test so that you'll be sure that your kids are yours. I'm just wondering why DNA tests cannot be done at birth, so that the man will know whose child is taking home.
Well,
is it impossible?
It is not impossible,
okay,
but oftentimes in our environment, because it is also, of course, it's not free of charge.
Yes.
There must be some level of suspicion before you say, I want to do this. Because the next thing is it a regular, is it like a malaria parasite test?
Okay.
Is it like a genotype test?
Okay.
So there must be some level of suspicion before you say, I think I want to do this. So there must be an indication, typically, especially in our environment.
All right, for our men, doctor said, words of marble, the end of silence is the beginning of healing. Please speak up so that you don't die in silence. Thank you for being part of our show today. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye. Thank you, Doctor.
This is ITV.
Certainly the best.
ITV, certainly the best.
This is Aqua Game, a popular game in Africa played by our ancestors to entertain themselves after each day of farming. It is also relevant in our coronation in Africa. It is a sport and indeed very interesting, as every seed had a role in the game. Playtime is 45 minutes per set. There is no age limit as long as you can spin Aqua Seed. Ayo, or Aqua Game, known as the game of intellectual. This game requires a lot of mathematical skills. Aqua Game is played with carved wooden box containing 12 holes.
ITV, certainly the best.